La 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 la. Sybel Specter, strange stories. Hello, and welcome to Sybel Specter's Strange Stories, or Psst. I'm Sybel Specter. I'm glad you heard my call. Was it a scratching at your door, or a murmuring coming from a figure that was laundry before you turned off the light? I'll let you think the decision to be here was your own. It was. I have a story to tell you. I must, or else. The story I have for you involves dreams. Those wisps or reels of fancy, maybe torture, that we're told no one wants to hear. This wasn't true in my home, the village of Ilam, now lost to the place where movie sets go, I think. Dreams and daydreams were valued by villagers. Mine weren't, though. I dreamt of being a main character, a star, the lead in a film about sexy vampires. What else was there to fantasize about? Desiring to be a main character is a problem if you think you're the focus of the only plot. Wanting to be an active and important participant in one of the many stories within the big production is a way to feel vital. Some of the other villagers didn't understand this. They were too resigned to their roles to want to be part of the real action. They'd lie on the edge of the woods of our medieval Central European village bordering 1960s London and, as I would discover, your world. They'd smoke from pipes or chew on wheat, staring with unfocused eyes at the gridded sky, before telling each other what they saw. It was nothing interesting from what I remember. Eventually, they wouldn't let me hear a thing. I was excluded and told that I wouldn't understand what they were doing. I didn't have the chance to try. Not that I would have. I was tossed through a tarnished mirror by the main character, simply for writing myself into the climax. But I made it anyway. It was Nina who informed me no one wants to hear your dreams. Nina, my discoverer, the one who saw the star in me in that diner and gave me my big break, telling you these stories. The reason for my dreams being uninteresting was different than what the villagers had told me. She said they're boring to people in this world, that no one wants to hear the mixed media garbage of your brain except for maybe Carl Jung, if you're lucky. The first story I told you was my origin. Now I have one from this big book that may have no beginning or end. I've read and reread this tale, then reviewed it once more for good measure. Now it's mine, and soon yours. This is the story of Delaney Ashling. She comes from a place where people only want to hear about your dreams because to them, that's all there is. This one is called Dream Goat Yoga. I've met someone who believes that we're living when we're awake. I watched the flickering light above us, listened to the rhythmic whoosh of the washers, and could feel his heat. He was leaning into me, though the laundromat was empty because so few wash their clothes. I agreed. "What's your name?" I asked. "Rocco." I heard my name, Delaney. The door opened, a woman entered. She had long hair, orange blonde at the knotted ends. The tank top she wore was twisted, one breast hung out. She tugged at the frayed hem of the gray underwear she wore. Rocco leaned back. "Let's talk later," he said. "About dreams." He didn't bother to whisper. The rush of rebellion goosebumped me. He touched my arm as he said it. It felt like sex, or what I imagined sex to be. I, like many people around my age, am a virgin. Apparently sex is better in experience. Declining population used to be a big concern. Now, what does it matter? We're all ageless in experience, in dreams, and everything is there. In the place we all go, whether we like it or not. I waved at the woman, my sister, Mia. Her appearance wasn't unusual. Most people didn't consider what they looked like. It wasn't important. Everything was permitted and a result of inattention in a world of waiting where nothing mattered. was too inconsequential to consider beyond the necessities. Mia dragged her feet and plopped in the plastic chair next to me. She yawned. "How did you find me?" "Oh, you know." She meant that she saw it in experience. Experience is another word for life. Life is another word for dreaming. "Just returned?" I asked. She nodded, stretching her neck from side to side. I wondered what it felt like for her, if there was soreness, tension, and physical pain would overwhelm her back to this world. "You didn't go at all, did you?" "Delaney, I'm starting to think." She trailed off, changed the subject. This was a language of experience. "I'm starting to gain a lot of power. I want it. I make it happen." "Cool, Mia. Must be nice." My eyes burned when I blinked. The circles beneath my eyes reminded me of rotten fruit when I saw them reflected at me. Most fresh food was left to decompose in grocery stores. I considered stealing concealer to cover them, but no one would notice. They might find it suspicious if it occurred to them to care, so I didn't. I put on makeup I found in a purse once, and it was a pleasure to look at myself in our bathroom mirror that hadn't been cleaned in years. The feeling made it almost worth doing it again, for my enjoyment. I didn't want to ask about Mia's experience in front of Rocco. I couldn't risk losing someone who believed that this was life and not waiting, going through the bioculturological duties until it was time to close our eyes again. Though some no longer needed to do that. Their eyes would glaze over and you'd wonder if they died until they spasmed or snored. I didn't have to ask Mia. She launched into her experience anyway. It was custom to do as verification, but also to see if the nature of experience was evolving, if we were meeting and collaborating during the time that had once been called sleep and dreams. Sleep. The purpose of it never completely understood, but previously accepted as regeneration for what came after you opened your eyes. Dreams. Once understood as prophecy, nonsense, or our brains trying to understand waking life, now called waiting. Dreams. Sleep. Taboo words. Mia stretched her arms wide over her head. "May I recognize life as life," she began, as everyone did. I saw that she had a gash above her elbow when she lifted her arms, deep red gradated to pink. The center of the cut was a bowl of bubbling encrusted pus. "Mia!" I grabbed her arm. "This needs to be looked at. You could die." The cut smelled sweet. I thought it was her trying to cover up not bathing. But she'd never had the chance to care about cleanliness. She jerked from my grasp. "That can't happen. And you know you're not supposed to interrupt, Cameron." I didn't ask who that was. She crossed her arms and shoved her tongue into her gums. I saw the little girl who had a few short years being here, awake with me before everything transitioned, flipped, blurred. "You must care. And besides, this sort of stuff," she grabbed her arm, squeezing the wound until a tear of pus leaked out, "might disappear or be a metaphor." There'd been talk, when there was talk, that sickness and injury were no longer threatening, that hunger wasn't a need, touch wasn't important. Sleep was more necessary than ever. It's all there was for most, but of course it was taboo, even dangerous, to call it sleep. There was only experience, life. Everything during waiting was fuel for it. "I'm sorry, Mia." Rocco got up and went to a dryer. He was lean but had some muscle definition in his biceps. Clearly he was active, but not too conspicuously fit. Smart. He wore a white t-shirt and dark jeans, his clothes unwrinkled, but there was one rip in the fabric between his shoulder blades, neat, as if cut with a knife. Clever. I watched the water and clothes rotate around his shaved head as Mia restarted, one hand brushing through her hair, fingers getting caught in the knot she raked through, not wincing as they tore from elastic strands. There is golden dust falling all around me. Stardust, maybe, though it descends from a deep, deep blue above. I roll in it naked. It covers me. The environment is warm, and I luxuriate in it until I sense a presence. It's a snake coming towards me. The snake bites me on the neck, and I begin to bleed until I'm red. A long red cord comes from the original wound, like it is a snake itself. It attaches to the back of the snake, and I am taken with it. I am dragged through the dust until it turns into a mountain with a curving river running through it. I'm dragged through water until the snake goes off the path on its own, leaving me in front of a huge red man who looks to be made of red wax. The man is blocky, and when I sit on him, he seems to be made for this, to be a chair. Then I realize he is the father. We kiss, but it's a platonic kiss. He takes me by the hand, lifting my arms above my head. The man is teaching me to walk. He releases me, and I take one step alone before a brown bear grabs me by the back of my neck with her teeth. We come to autumn woods. She is gone. I see a wood cabin in front of me. I walk up to it, hoping for communion. A family sits around the table holding hands. Suddenly they throw their heads back, mouths wide, screaming without sound. The veins bulge in their necks. I back away. Next, I come to an underground stone structure, circular, like a shallow and empty well. It's the dwelling of a family of rabbits. I know I don't belong there, that I'm scaring them with my intrusion, so I move on. A voice says, "You have to build your home." I want to fight this. All the work it will take. Plus, I don't know how to construct. Still, I put down the first stone. A pair of strong hands join me. I try to attach them to someone I know, someone who could build. But they're only arms. No one is at the end of them. The home is built. It is a cottage with stained glass windows. I stand in front of a fire at my hearth and warm myself. Gold dust falls from me. Every me falls from me. Mia exhaled and slumped again. She hugged herself, squeezing her eyes shut. I have parents. I built a home. Look at what I'm capable of. Experience is good. Will your home be there again when you go to experience? Those parents? My parents. All our parents. She scratched at her arm. A stream of blood slid from the wound. She smiled, put her hand in it, and painted her tricep. The gold dust, she said. I jumped to get her a paper towel. There weren't any. I went to the washing machine I was using, planning to give her one of my wet shirts or dresses, but Rocco stopped me. He opened the dryer and took out a warm towel, handing it to me. Thanks. He nodded and leaned against the dryer, watching me as she held her red hand to the draining light. I took a step toward her, then turned back to him, searching for something to say. I held the towel to my face and breathed it in. It was soft and smelled like a memory I had of real lavender when my family visited a farm, before dreams became life. Rocco began to smile, but then his eyes narrowed. Watch out, he said calmly and moving. Then he repeated himself, yelling and crouching down, hands over his face. I heard a scratch and a boom, the sound of glass shattering. A white van crashed through the laundromat. A man wearing a blue robe opened the door and scratched his head. I'm late, he said, before stepping through debris and stumbling away. A song by John Lennon played on the radio. It's the only damn song that you'll ever hear in the waiting world. All I saw was Mia's, blonde beneath the tire. I ran over to the van and knelt. Mia's eyes were half open, glassy. Her face was red and glittering. I crawled away and fell onto my back. When I looked up, there was Rocco. He took my hands and pulled me up. Composure returned until he broke out in a run. We sprinted from the laundromat and didn't stop until it was out of sight. I bent over, panting. I couldn't remember the last time I'd run outside of an experience. Rocco didn't seem to be fazed. He stretched his quad and moaned. So good, he said. We stood in a street riddled with potholes, blocked by abandoned cars and bikes. Do you want to get something to eat? He asked. People still need to eat when they're awake, but many have started to take the new supplement pills that have begun being sent to homes or placed on the street in abandoned stores or inside of buses. A restaurant? Never been to a diner? Do they have real burgers? Saliva filled my mouth, my body, still an organism. He completed a smile this time. His teeth were perfect. It seemed I blinked and we were there. The street was familiar. I had hazy memories of it as a little girl with my family, father, grandma, and Mia. We used to eat Chinese together, then go to the movie theater across the street on Fridays. Grandma died before experience became life. Dad said she would have thrived in it, that she had lived in an unreal and distant place by the time we were born anyway. I haven't seen him in a long time. I tried to go to the theater with them again in my dreams, but I couldn't do it. The street had changed. It was run down like most. The theater was probably used for experience. The Chinese restaurant was closed. Restaurants with cuisine that required anything more than simple preparation were long gone. The restaurants in experience were far more decadent, or so I was told. The real change was the diner. There was shining glass and neon, seemingly new. Nothing had been new for years. Unnecessary effort in the waiting was sacrilegious, but as I was about to ask how this diner had opened without notice, I watched a woman stumble past, her eyes on the ground, and realized why. Rocco voiced what I was thinking. If they see, it doesn't register. If it registers, they can't care. I looked across the street to a shelter built from random materials, street signs, cardboard, books, and metal. A naked man laid inside of it, curled into the fetal position. His skin was covered in sores. At least there's that, I said. They used to tear down shelters, arrest people for sleeping on the street. I picked up one of the capsules filled with beige powder. It's not food, but sustenance is free. Rocco took the pill from me and held it in front of his face. I thought his eyes were blue, but now they were brown. I must not have been looking at him. Not really. His face was long and thin. He didn't have the square jaw I'd imagined. He twisted the capsule between his fingers until it popped open. I don't know if the smell of bacon came from the diner or the powder. My stomach growled. It was the loudest sound on the street. Rocco opened the door to the diner and guided me by my shoulder. My skin prickled beneath his smooth-fingered touch. It was humid and bright inside. I smelled food. Real food. And I was taken into memory. A wooden kitchen, steam drifting through morning light, a sizzling pan, Mia picking up a syrup-drenched pancake with her bare hands, Grandma telling her to use cutlery like a little lady. The imagery was so strong, I think I've fallen to experienced dreams, but then Rocco asked me where I want to sit, and I was back. We slid into the first booth we saw open, but I bumped into someone lying in the seat, so did Rocco. It was two women curled up, asleep. They were holding hands beneath the table and didn't stir. Careful, a woman wearing huge overalls told us. Elaine and Ardiep are being born. She stared at Rocco, nodding her head slightly, then turned her shiny red stool back toward the counter. What? I asked. Nonsense. Rocco checked another booth before sitting down. It's the official language these days, isn't it? I laughed and sat across from him, our knees touched. He readjusted, sliding one knee between my legs. We became linked, locked together. A waitress who looked like a child came over and threw menus on the table before walking away. There were paninis, spaghetti, pancakes, and burgers, lattes, pies, and country fried steak. I know this isn't illegal, but it feels like it is. I searched for prices, but there were stickers over them. I peeled one of them back. An omelet used to be $14.50. This price was also a sticker. The one underneath it said $9.25. I removed the sticker until I got to the original cost, $2. How was I going to pay for this? When is the last time you paid for anything? Rocco asked. I couldn't remember. I lived in an apartment, officially with Mia. I ate simple foods, took pills sometimes. How did I do it? What had I been doing? Things worked out. They went on. I knew that some people had jobs to keep the bioculturological going, but were they paid? We were so close to heaven, Rocco said, his eyes greening as he looked up from the menu. I ordered a cheeseburger and fries. Rocco, French toast. We both got coffee. I whispered my coffee order. I knew this was taboo when experience became important. What is that you want? Toffee? The child waitress asked. Coffee! Rocco almost shouted. She rolled her eyes. Oh, hon, no one cares. She returned with the coffee. Rocco took a sip. So did I. It was awful, which was nice in a way. I poured sugar into mine, and then it was fine, which was great. We drank and sat. Rocco stared into his stained mug marked with a logo that said diner. I looked around. There were 11 other people. The 2 sleepers, the waitress, and a guy behind the counter. Employees, if that's what they could be called. The overalled woman was eating pie. She dropped a crumb to the floor. A mouse wearing a frilly pink dress ran out from the denim hem, nibbled it, then returned to hiding. A teenage boy sat next to the bathroom, mumbling to himself. He also had bags under his red eyes. I might not get good sleep, but I knew he was an insomniac. Insomniacs had been forgotten because they eventually became as useless in the waiting world as dreamers. My attention was drawn from the boy by the words I heard from the corner of the restaurant. The only problem is the women. They'll be available soon. 3 men and a woman sat at another booth, huddled close. They wore suits with white shirts, but not the kind people used to wear in banks or offices. They looked like they were going to an opera. The word came back to me. Tuxedos. All I got was snippets of sentences. Knocked it down, all down. Los Angeles, finally, like it should be. I tried to tune out the sizzling grease to piece together the conversation, but a tap on my shoulder drew me away, just as I was about to understand something. I turned to a man who was a wrinkle with pellucid eyes. How are you? He asked. I didn't think. I launched into ceremony. May I recognize life as life. My body was split, pulled like a banana peel, bone stretching, skin opened, next to the water. I rode on the back of a water serpent, slippery and undulating. She dropped me off in the woods. I understood that I was pregnant. I was heaving, bringing my shoulders back and forth from the ground. As I gave birth, I became drenched in blood. I let myself be covered in slick red and crawled through it. My baby was blood-covered too. I carried her on the outside of me, as if I was still pregnant. Then she released herself, and again, I split. Again, we came together. I saw myself multiply into a line. It was a paper doll. All of me held hands and danced together in a cradle. I'm always coming back together again. Here's the good thing about the waiting world on the other side of experience. As Mia said, you're supposed to care. No one cared about how you were really doing before. Their eyes glazed over if you told them about your trip to the supermarket, your goals, much less your deepest desires, unless they were lascivious or gossip-worthy. I was still in elementary school when the world changed, so people were politely interested and encouraging of me at least, as they were with children. My father, one of the last times I saw him, said life had already become absurd, that what was happening was a natural progression based on the track we were on. After the transition, care for experience was encouraged, enforced maybe, but it felt real. It was the only time the pajama, the half-naked, the dragging feet, the seemingly gone returned to the waiting, this world, sharpened and showing their humanity which seemed to be made of attention. Oh, sweetheart, the old man said, hand over his mouth. What a mind you have. What are you trying to create? A family? A population of you for assured good company? He cough-laughed. There was a rattling in his throat or somewhere deeper. He assumed I made the dream happen. I leaned closer to the man and whispered, How are you? Huh? I repeated myself. Rocco had heard me anyway. The man's hands shook as he gripped the top of the booth. His nails were yellowed and jagged. May I recognize life as life, he said. It has taken patience, trial, effort, and ultimately belief to build what I once had. Then he told us about the experience he'd been working on, which was recreating what he'd had as a young and younger man. He'd worked 3 jobs. He was a food delivery driver, a gas station attendant, and a painter. His wife was a bartender. They'd rented a studio apartment where they raised 2 children together. A girl and a boy, he said, one of each, the perfect family. He went on to tell us that he struggled to remember what was, but he was pretty sure they were often struggling to pay the bills. They were on the edge of divorce, both cheating on each other. He knew his wife was a lesbian, but she didn't tell him this, so he didn't push it. Rocco put his coffee down. I heard ceramic hitting wood. It had spilled onto the table in his hands, reddening his skin. Didn't you want to make a better life for yourself? Waiting, the man corrected. No. Don't you want to now, even if it's just dreams? Experience, he spat. A yellowish-gray glob landed on my hand. I wiped it under the table. I want what I had again and again, all the way until the end. Then I will start over. The small waitress came over to the table with our food. I thanked him for sharing. He nodded, then turned around. His head dropped to the table. The cracked plate held a triple-stacked cheeseburger. The bun looked like it had been flattened by someone's hand. Pink juice dripped from the patties, dampening the fries. I picked up a fry and twisted it between my fingertips until they were greased and salted. I shoved it into my mouth. One bite, and I realized that I hadn't been living or waiting or experiencing. After 2 bites of the burger, I felt my heart beat, the soles of my feet, and the taste buds ache in my mouth. I ate, and I ate. I chewed and swallowed until there was no more. Then I licked the plate. I remembered Rocco, and there was nothing left. He, too, was lost to food. The plate of French toast was gone. I didn't recall him ordering pie, but he was working through 2 pieces of it, cherry and pumpkin. I watched his rapture until it was over, and his body relaxed with a sigh. When he remembered I was with him, he laughed. It was the first hint of levity I'd seen from him, so I joined. His laughter sounded like he was reading ha, 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 ha from a page, but maybe it was because it'd been a long time since he'd laughed. The waitress came to collect our plates. Nothing was mentioned about a bill. Rocco leaned in and took my hands. Skin to skin, salt to salt, grease to grease. That wasn't your dream you told that guy, was it? I wanted to pull my hands away, but the touch might have meant more than Rocco himself. I'd heard stories of people disappearing for not being faithful to experience. But these tales might have originated in experience, dreams. Rocco interrupted my thoughts. I'm no trick, not even of the imagination. There is no taboo or custom, only automation. There was a time that enforcement was real, but now the ones who aim to benefit have done it. They're living dreams here, in the world. Everyone else is living nowhere. We could scream, try to start a movement, blow up a building. They probably wouldn't care. But they don't. I don't remember my dreams. I mean, I have some recollection, but they're blurry and soon gone, except for scraps. I belong to the waiting. This world. Rocco rubbed my knuckles. I think most people are like you. Maybe they tell themselves they remember it all, that they're collaborating with each other, that they're creating like that guy. They stay half asleep to try to remain in the womb of dreaming. I'm not half asleep, though. If that were true, you'd see what's happening. But you're initiated and submerged. You didn't ask how I knew your name or thoughts. You moved on from Mia, he snapped. Like that. You didn't question how we got here so quickly. You're part of the dream. If this was true, then there was no waiting, no experience. There was no dream or life for me. I took my hands from his and jumped from the booth. A heron wearing a suit emerged from the kitchen. I only recognized the strangeness of this when Rocco looked at the heron, then at me, and said, "See?" I ran outside. The avenue had become populated. The streetlights were out, but the diner neon bathed my skin, and the people ambling, shuffling, or fallen to the ground in the pink of raw meat or an idea of love. The naked man, who had been the only other person on the street, was sitting up, cross-legged and staring at the theater. I wondered if he was my father. My stomach, chest, and throat burned. I opened my mouth and hot vomit spewed. I heard footsteps behind me, then I was pushed to bending until my stomach was cleared. I was relieved to only see undigested bits of meat and french fries on the asphalt. Rocco righted me, wiped my lips and chin, and held me to his chest. "Delaney," he said, "I wasn't trying to insult you. I have nothing. I was born of the dream, but not sustained by it. Born, as you see me." I opened my mouth, but there were too many questions fighting for first place. I don't know. I remember using planets as chairs, smoking a pipe with Rimbaud, being murdered and murdering, making love to dreamers who I knew were not of the dream, only sleeping. I recall jumping from tall buildings and becoming a giraffe. I did it all, but it was done to me. That was my home, but it's going, soon gone. All I have are crumbs. I ended up here when the worlds began to merge. We're still at the beginning, or maybe this is the end. I don't know what I hoped for. I was happy to be here, to feel for the first time, to taste food and touch skin. Before you, I only tapped or brushed the skin of sleepers. But is this what the world has always been? It must have been better. I've been doing my research. It's all I did for months in a library that is nothing but a hotel now. It seems it was not better, maybe, but more active than this. Being a dream, I can't dream. I sleep now, but there's nothing there. I know I'm not dreaming and forgetting. It's death, or worse than that. This is all I have, and this isn't much. There was an attainable utopia when an intention gave way to freedom. I watched his eyes change again. I wasn't crazy or forgetful. It was a hint of lucidity. I am here, not there, not nowhere. He may be composed of a dream, but the warm air on my neck, the sweat running from my pits, the weeds emerging from the cracked and pitted ground is of the earth. Why don't we stay awake? We don't need dreams, and who knows, maybe we don't need sleep. Other people aren't required to make this world for us. There must be some fun to be had. I move closer to him, stepping on his foot. It was an accident, but I do it again, harder this time. Ah, that hurt, he says. I see what you're getting at. Where do we start? This is the hard part. Dreams do the work for you. Waiting, living require nothing but sustenance if the difficult work of survival is done. And somehow, it is done. Imagination fails me. Want to see a movie? We walk into the theater. There's ancient popcorn contained in glass. We take candy that is still bright and shiny when we open the boxes. Of course, there's nothing playing on the screen, so we go to the projection room and search through the film reels, looking for inspiring titles. We choose Natural Born Killers and watch it in a theater full of sleepers. Then Crossroads and True Romance. We end with Thelma and Louise, but I know we fell asleep during it because when we exit the theater during the credits, someone says, "I'm going to create an experience where they never drive off that cliff." I'd imagined a happy ending. In fact, my imagination is stimulated. From what I gather, a good time means road trips, sex, murder, drinking, and drugs. Rocco tells me he knows where to start. We walk a few streets over to a police precinct. The lights are on inside. Through the glass, I see a police officer sitting with her feet up on a desk. Rocco opens the door for me, but I step back. Were you asleep through all those movies? Did you see what happens when law enforcement gets involved? He rolls his eyes. I see his multiple irises and pupils like a many-sided die. Let's promise each other now to stay awake. We die, or we make it to the other side of whatever this is. I consider and agree. If people are staying in a dream state, then can't we remain awake? I'm not sure there's death either way. Rocco holds the door and looks at the officer as he speaks to me. I appeared in Kit's dreams before I came here. Anytime she sees me, she assumes she's asleep. We walk by the woman, who raises her hand in a wave, following Rocco with her eyes until we are out of sight. I wonder if they've had sex in her dreams, or maybe at her desk. We stop at a gray, unlabeled door. Evidence, Rocco says. Inside, there are a few bikes hanging from a rack, 2 car tires, and bottles of half-empty soda on top of the file cabinets that take up most of the room. Rocco starts opening cabinets, throwing clear bags behind him as he digs. I pick up one of the bags. There's an aquamarine ring inside of it. I take it out and slip it on my ring finger. It's too tight. It's perfect for my pinky. I grab another one and see pink panties stained red. Here we go, Rocco says, slamming the cabinet shut. He holds the bag up. It's filled with white powder. I would have asked if it was the food supplement if we hadn't just seen True Romance. This powder led to trouble in the movie, although I remember my grandma telling me how much she liked it when she was a young mom in the 70s. This will keep us awake. I dip my finger into the bag, then rub it over my gums. Something else I'd seen in a movie, or maybe another experience, dream. Rocco dumps the bag out onto a table, puts his face on the hill of white, and breathes in. His face is that of a clown when he lifts it. We are awake, and suddenly, the possibilities seem endless. We rifle through the drawers and grab all the car keys we can find. We go outside, activating alarms until we find a corresponding vehicle, a blue minivan. I don't know how to drive, but Rocco says he's been practicing. We stop and go, swerve and speed, almost hit a few people until Rocco crashes into a fence in front of a stucco house. As the engine smokes, I look over at him and am surprised to see he has blood to streak down his face. I taste blood in my mouth, and I can't think of any object to compare it to, only a distant memory. Let's slow down a bit, okay? Rocco agrees. His hands are shaking. We stumble from the car and try the front door of the house, which is unlocked. The house seems to be unoccupied, so we take a shower, letting the water scald our skin. Naked, he looks like any other man wandering the streets. We spend the next day playing house. He makes us dinner from the can of sardines and rice left in the pantry. I clean, scrubbing the stain from the carpet that digs into my knees after a while, leaving them stinging red. We find a crib in one room and lean over it, talking to the bones left within. Around 2 a.m., we discover a swing set in the backyard. We pump our legs and are married when we reach the same height, one of the games left with me from childhood. We make the aquamarine fit on my ring finger. Soon, everything becomes both funny and irritating. We find the refrigerator light hilarious, its wedge of yellow in the dark kitchen. Like cheese, I say. Rocco calls it gold, and that pisses me off. We argue over who cracked the mirror in the bedroom before remembering that much of the furniture was broken when we entered. We're really a married couple now, I tell him, my eyes closing and slitting open. He kisses me. It's our first kiss, mine and his. And it's okay, this lips to lips. It's when he shoves his tongue into my mouth that I pull away. Dreams need to brush their teeth. But on the second kiss, I decide the taste is still a flavor, so I like it. Okay, we've done the crime, the drugs, we've gone on a road trip. What's left, he asks. We know the answer. The sex. I think we would have figured out what to do, but the movies we'd watched helped. I moan and throw my head back because it seems like it was part of the act in films. It doesn't make it feel good. I can't remember the sex dreams I'd had, but they must have been better than this. Rocco rolls off me after a few minutes. He stares at the ceiling. So, that's what it's all about. He rubs his eyes. I'm awake now. He's on his feet. He pulls me up and drags me out the door before we can get dressed. We've got to keep going. This is the last time anything felt real or consequential. I know we run. I can finally run, fast and for a long time. The colors are brighter, but everything I see is a painting that has been wiped before it dries. His voice sounds far from me when he is close, but in my ear when he isn't in sight. We rifle through a junkyard, though why I can't recall. We stumble into a graveyard. Bodies lie upon all the graves. I speak to ghosts and to the living dead. I weep at the comfort of this until Rocco drags me through the iron gate back to the street. Each time we come close to sleep, we slap each other awake. Red bruises, scratches, and welts ornament our faces. Rocco takes a first aid kit from a pharmacy and pours alcohol over my wounds, then covers me in band-aids. Finally, all fatigue leaves my body and mind, and with it, all thought. Only feeling remains. Fear. There's wet on my hands in my hair beneath my feet open and collecting everything I walk on. It is scene after scene after scene, chopped and cut and spliced together. I swim in the river that bisects town. Rocco stays on the shore, watching. The water is clear and sweet. I take great gulps of it each time I plunge into the water, becoming it. All is gorgeous as I turn liquid. There's a little girl with a braid who is before, after, and now, and she carries a small cat that remembers my mother because they go for tea together each day, and I am giddy to know it and to see that every flower is a person and every person is a seed, that no one needs to speak to say what is on their minds and what is in their thoughts has never mattered much, because feeling permeates experience, dreaming, breathing every smart and dumb tree. Each bright star that flashes blue and white right in my eyes, coming all the way from out there to me, finding me, although I've become invisible and omniscient, yet sneaky as a spy, because I can look in at those king people who hold chandeliers, swinging parties, and glass cities that are mansions, those rulers who have lost their jobs and are left poking at bodies in gilt-framed rooms. One who is Mia, alive and shouting, "That tickles," just as she did when we were girls and had tickle fights that turned into punches. But I can step into her body and feel the jabs and caresses and can understand who she could have been as one iteration of her, and I can go with her, riding the snake into a dense forest to meet the being who says to us, "Then, wanderers, these dream-like beings, what are they? If analyzed, they're like a banana tree. One cannot make definite distinctions between transcending misery and not." Then leaving her, emerging from that body into my own, which has a bone sticking out from my wrist that doesn't hurt and is okay. All is good, good, good. Rocco says, "Shh, shh," Everything is fine. Let's settle down. And I tell him, let's keep going, because we are at the edge of a cliff, and if there's anything I've learned about cliffs, it's that there's always something to catch you at the bottom and throw you back into the sky. The wind is chilling. I only see the pollution of pure blue. Let's go to the end. This isn't a cliff, he tells me. It's made of granite. I step forward. He yanks me back. Though jubilant, he'd been more careful since we'd had sex. Delaney, come on. We could go back to that house and start a family. I'd get a job. There are still some. You could tend to the home, make a job up, or become what you would have been. I bet you would have been a great DoorDash driver. It'd be you, me, our family, and all that descends from us. Doesn't that sound like paradise? He takes a step back. Here's something else I've learned. Nothing is separated. His experience is mine is his, as ours is everyone's, and we can do it all until the never end. We will. Beginning with following my dreams, all the way down. Well, that's the end of Delaney's story. I adore love stories, don't you? This tale reminds me of something I read in one of the books I'd found on a shelf in Ireland. The cover said, Poe, stamped in gold. All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. Does this Poe exist here in your world? I haven't asked Nina. Maybe I'm not supposed to say this, but I'm not sure I like this story. Were my dreams small, and the villagers were envisioning beyond the reaches of my imagination? No. That can't be. Or could I have lived within my visions of stardom, having everything I wanted, being all I know I am? If I am real, and I am, those fantasies would have been real too. Do I have the consistency of a dream to you, listener? Don't answer that. I know that I'm in this small room, lying on my own soft bed, with a book of strange stories to tell you. All I need is you, the audience, to continue the dream. Until next time.